Welcome to Life Stories, where we share emotional and heartwarming tales that touch the soul. Today's story is one of unexpected surprises, life-changing decisions, and the power of second chances. It's about a billionaire who, after a chance encounter with a 7-year-old boy, discovers a truth that will forever alter the course of his life. This is a journey about fatherhood, love, and the lessons that come when we least expect them. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into today's story. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to hear more incredible life stories. I remember the day like it was yesterday, though it feels like a lifetime ago. It was a dreary afternoon. One of those gray, overcast days when the world feels heavy, like the sky itself might collapse at any moment. I had just stepped into a small cafe, the kind of place tucked away from the usual bustle, hoping for a moment of peace. A few minutes of silence away from the chaos that had consumed my life. The board meeting earlier that day had drained me, endless talk. No real progress, just people pretending to have groundbreaking ideas while circling back to the same tired solutions. My mind was still tangled in the mess of it all, and the aroma of roasted coffee and freshly baked pastries did little to calm my racing thoughts. I ordered a black coffee, nothing fancy, and made my way to the quiet corner where I could retreat into my emails. Try to regain some semblance of order. The barista handed me the coffee, and I sat down, loosening my tie as I scrolled through my phone. A merger negotiation was stuck in limbo, an investor making impossible demands, and my assistant Olivia had sent 3 texts reminding me about a packed schedule for the following day. As if I hadn't already memorized every detail of it. But as I tried to push the world aside, the flicker of movement caught my attention. My wallet, my damn wallet, was gone from the table. In the span of a second, I shot up from my seat, the chair scraping loudly against the floor as I turned around to see a small figure darting between tables. A boy, no older than 7 or 8, was halfway to the door, clutching my wallet in his small, grubby hands. "Hey," I called out, my voice harsh, as I lunged forward, grabbing hold of the boy's jacket. He twisted in my grasp, trying to wriggle free, but I had a solid grip. The entire cafe went quiet. All eyes on us. "Let me go," the boy squirmed, his face flushed with a mixture of fear and defiance. I could feel his tiny frame, all skin and bone, and I saw the worn sneakers, the streak of dirt on his cheek. His eyes dark with something more than desperation. "Seriously, you thought you could get away with this?" I demanded, yanking the wallet from his hands. Half angry, half exasperated, the boy's shoulders rose as if he was bracing for something worse. But instead of cowering, he lifted his chin, locking eyes with me. "I needed the money," he said, his voice shaky but unwavering. I narrowed my eyes, my anger suddenly fading as I studied him. "For what?" I asked, more out of curiosity than anything else. The boy hesitated, as if he hadn't expected to be asked that question. But then he spoke in a voice that was both stubborn and unsteady. "My mom is sick. She needs medicine." I paused. The excuse was so familiar, so predictable, that it almost felt rehearsed. I exhaled sharply, the cynicism creeping back into my voice. "And I'm supposed to believe that?" His eyes didn't flinch. "It's the truth." A long silence hung between us, and for a moment, I almost believed him. But then, without warning, he spoke again, his words sharp, cutting through the air with a conviction that froze me in place. "Why don't you ask your father for help?" I froze. The words echoed in my head, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. He wasn't just asking for help. No, he was accusing me of something far more profound, something that struck a chord deep inside. I looked at him, trying to find the logic in his words. But there was something in his eyes, something so raw, that I couldn't push it away. He wasn't lying. I knew it in my gut. And then, just like that, the grip I had on the boy's jacket loosened, and in that split second, he tore himself free, bolting out the door before I could even process what had just happened. I stood there for a moment, heart pounding in my chest, trying to make sense of it all. The boy was gone. The moment had passed. And yet, I couldn't shake the feeling that something far more important had just unfolded before me, something that, for reasons I couldn't explain, felt like the beginning of something new. Something that would change the course of my life. I stood there, staring out the door, watching the boy disappear into the crowd outside. My mind raced, but the words he had spoken, the words that shattered my skepticism, remained. That's what I just tried to do. The simplicity of it, the weight of those words, settled into my chest. I had been expecting a petty thief, a scam, a child desperate for a quick buck. But what I hadn't expected was this raw honesty that hit me harder than any business deal ever had. I tried to push it aside, to convince myself that it was just some trick, a scam, but the boy's words lingered in my mind like an unanswered question. That's what I just tried to do. It echoed through my thoughts long after the incident, refusing to be ignored. The more I tried to focus on work, the more those words crept back, whispering to me in the quiet moments when I thought I could escape them. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something I wasn't seeing. Something deeper beneath the surface. I spent the next few days trying to dismiss it. I had a business empire to run. After all, important meetings, financial reports, mergers, and acquisitions, it was a world I knew well. But no matter how much I tried to bury myself in it, that boy's voice, the way he looked at me, and the sheer vulnerability in his words refused to fade. One evening, I found myself sitting at my desk, staring blankly at the screen, when Olivia, my assistant, walked in. Her presence was a welcome distraction. But as soon as I saw the look on her face, I knew something was wrong. "You look like someone just told you your stocks crashed," she said, half smirking, her usual sarcasm cutting through the tension. "A kid tried to steal my wallet," I said, rubbing my temples, still trying to make sense of the encounter. "And he said his mother was sick, that she needed medicine. He told me I was his father." Olivia stopped mid-text, her eyebrows arching in surprise. "He said what?" "I know it sounds insane," I muttered, exhaling sharply, "but he said I was his father." There was a long pause, and Olivia leaned against the desk, her amusement replaced by a thoughtful expression. "That's a fun twist. Do you have a long-lost child running around, David?" I shot her a flat look. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" she asked, her voice playful but probing. "I mean, you've never exactly been the most responsible when it comes to certain areas of life." I sighed, rubbing my face. "I don't have a kid." "Olivia." "Sure," she said, arching an eyebrow, "because I can run a check." I shot her a glare, not in the mood for her usual teasing. Not funny. But Olivia wasn't deterred. "What's his name?" I froze. The truth was, I didn't know. The boy had run off so quickly that I hadn't even thought to ask. All I knew was his eyes, dark and full of something I couldn't name, and the sound of his voice, shaking yet defiant. The silence between Olivia and me stretched, and for the first time in a long while, I felt unsure. There was only one name that stuck in my mind, one name that had haunted me for years. Rachel Miller. I hadn't thought about her in ages. Our relationship had been brief but intense, a whirlwind of emotions that ended as abruptly as it had started. No dramatic breakup, no big fight. She had just disappeared one day. I hadn't questioned it at the time, but now it felt like there was something I had missed. Something important. Rachel Miller, I muttered under my breath, the name almost foreign on my lips. Olivia's eyes widened slightly. "You think?" "I don't know," I said, my voice uncertain, "but it's the only lead I have." I pulled up my phone, scrolling through old contacts. It had been years since I'd seen Rachel, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this boy, this kid who had stolen my wallet, was somehow connected to her. The more I thought about it, the more it seemed like the pieces were falling into place. But I couldn't make sense of the picture. Olivia saw the hesitation in my face. "So, what now?" she asked, her voice quiet, almost sympathetic. "I need to find her." I said, a sense of resolve building in me. I need to know the truth. Olivia nodded and grabbed her phone. Typing quickly. Give me a minute, I'll see what I can find. I leaned back in my chair. My mind racing. I had been a man who made decisions quickly. Who thrived on control and certainty. But now I wasn't sure of anything. All I knew was that I had to find Rachel and learn the truth about this boy. The boy who had somehow shattered the carefully constructed world I had built around myself. Within 20 minutes, Olivia had a name, an address, a small apartment complex in Eastwood, a neighborhood far removed from the wealth and luxury I was used to. She handed me a slip of paper with the details. It's a start, she said, but be careful, this could be more complicated than you think. I stood up, the weight of what I was about to do settling on my shoulders. There was no turning back now. I'll handle it. As I walked out the door, I could feel the uncertainty tightening around me like a vice. But something had changed. I couldn't walk away from this. Not anymore. I had to know the truth. The drive to Eastwood was longer than I expected. The streets grew narrower, the buildings smaller, and the air seemed to shift in a way that reminded me I was no longer in the world I was accustomed to. I couldn't deny it. The luxury I lived in, the power and control, all felt distant now. Almost irrelevant. Eastwood wasn't a place for billionaires. It wasn't even a place for people like me. People who spent their days in boardrooms and private jets. The apartment complex I was heading toward was tucked away in a quiet corner of the city. A far cry from the glass towers and manicured lawns that defined my life. I found the building easily enough. It was old, with peeling paint on the walls. The kind of place that had seen better days but still stood strong against the test of time. I hesitated for a moment before stepping out of the car, the weight of the decision pressing down on me. This wasn't just about finding out if the boy was really my son. It was about facing a part of my life I had long ignored. A part of me that I had never really acknowledged. I walked up to the door and knocked, my knuckles tapping softly against the worn wood. There was a long pause before the door creaked open. Rachel stood there, her face pale, her eyes tired, but there was a certain weariness in her gaze that told me she hadn't expected this moment. She hadn't expected me. David, she said, her voice quiet but steady. I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. I had never imagined this day would come. Rachel, I need to talk to you. She didn't invite me in immediately. There was a hesitation, a wariness in her eyes. As if she wasn't sure what to make of me standing there on her doorstep after all these years. Finally, she stepped aside, allowing me to enter. The apartment was small, almost cramped. The walls were bare except for a few old pictures. The kind that spoke more of memories than of any grand design. There was a faint scent of disinfectant in the air, and I noticed a teapot on the small table in the corner. Steam rising from it in a way that made me feel strangely out of place. It was the kind of room where you could almost feel the weight of the past pressing down on you. Sit down, Rachel said softly, gesturing to the worn couch. I took a seat, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what to expect. After a few moments of silence, she sat down across from me. Her hands were trembling slightly, but she didn't say anything right away. I didn't know where to begin, so I just blurted it out. Is he mine? The question hung in the air between us, heavier than I ever imagined. The boy, Evan, his words had shaken me to my core. Rachel didn't answer immediately. She simply looked at me, studying me as if weighing the truth in her mind. And then, slowly, almost reluctantly, she nodded. Yes, David, he's yours. It hit me like a freight train. The boy, the one who had stolen my wallet, was my son. The truth had been right in front of me all along. And yet I had never seen it. I felt a rush of emotions, anger, confusion, disbelief. But beneath it all, something softer, something that I had long buried in the depths of my heart. Why didn't you tell me? The question came out harsher than I intended. But I couldn't help it. It was the one thing I needed to know. The one thing that had been eating at me since that boy had looked me in the eyes. Rachel let out a deep sigh. running a hand through her hair. Because I didn't think you'd care. David, I didn't think you'd want to be a part of his life. You were always so caught up in your world. Your work. I didn't want to force you into something you wouldn't want. Her words cut deeper than I expected. She was right. In a way, I had been too consumed by my own ambitions to consider the possibility that there was more to life than the next deal or the next business venture. But now, sitting in this tiny apartment with Rachel, the truth was undeniable. I had a son, and I had missed so much of his life. I was wrong, Rachel added quietly, her voice almost breaking. I should have told you sooner. I didn't know what to say. The weight of the moment was too much. And for the first time in my life, I was speechless. How could I have been so blind? How could I have let this slip through my fingers? I didn't have the answers. I didn't know how to fix the past. But one thing was clear. I couldn't walk away now. I want to be part of his life. I said, my voice steady but firm. I want to help. I want to make this right. Rachel's eyes softened, but there was still hesitation in them. It's not that simple, David. You can't just show up and expect everything to be fine. There's a lot you don't understand. I'll learn, I said, my resolve strengthening. I won't make the same mistake twice. Rachel didn't respond immediately, but the silence between us was no longer filled with tension. It was something else, something more fragile, more hopeful. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was on the brink of something important. Something that could change everything. As the days passed, I found myself in a world I never thought I'd be part of. I wasn't just a businessman anymore, I was a father. Every morning, I woke up to the sound of Evan's laughter. The way he ran around the apartment, asking a million questions that I didn't always have answers to. But I learned to be there for him. To listen to him, and to truly show up in his life. Slowly, we built something real, something lasting. Rachel and we didn't rush things. Trust was something that had to be earned. And we both knew that. But there was a quiet understanding between us now. Something that didn't need words. We had both made mistakes. But we were determined not to let them define us. The press scandals, the public scrutiny, they were difficult. But as time went on, I found that I cared less about what the world thought. What mattered now was that I had a family. A real family. And I was there for them. The moment Evan called me, Dad, without hesitation, something inside me shifted. I had become the father I never thought I could be. And in doing so, I had found a part of myself I had long buried. It was messy. It was complicated. But it was real. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to our channel for more heartwarming and emotional life stories. Thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the next one.